What's up, guys? Wade Willis here for my playthrough of Umineko. This is Chapter 4, Part 16. Yeah, the last episode is actually like one of my favorite ones I've done. It was so crazy. We had George and Jessica are fighting, different demons. Well, one's fighting a demon, one's fighting a witch, I believe. And they're really holding their own so far. Now, will they be able to defeat them? Probably not, but that'd be cool if they did. Jessica's fighting Ronov, which you guys know, that's my homie. And George is going against Gop. So, Kinzo set up this weird, 2 out of 3 game. It's just craziness. Pretty interesting to see kind of their thought process. I did not expect them to just straight up rebel and try to fight against these people, though. So, yeah, let's see where it goes from here. And, guys, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel for tons of When They Cry content. And, yeah, share the video if you like it. I've been working pretty hard on this series. And really cranking through a lot recently. So, yeah, please support the channel any way that you can. I'd really appreciate it. Oh, is he about to go and yeet these things? Yo, simmer down. You're about to be shocked, homie.
いいよね、姉さん。もう一度だけ。あがいても。
私ももう一度だけあがくよ。一度だけじゃない。何度でも。
Jessica's voice had reached Cannon. It certainly had permeated into his cold, rock-like heart. And George's voice had reached Shannon. If the love he had shown was embodied by strength, she would have to respond in the same way. An incredible metal sound rang out. In the first flash, several metal bars were severed horizontally, and in the next flash, they were severed horizontally again, causing many metal bars to clatter to the ground like bamboo shoots cut by a sword. Kraus, Kyrie, and Nanjo didn't even have a clue what had just happened. Yeah, I mean, they could have done that at any time. We'd already seen.
Nanjo 先生。お屋敷や廊下をどっちに？
左奥だ、左奥。
参りましょう、旦那様方。すぐにワルギリア様に気づかれます。
あんたたちは一体何なの？
Don't worry about that.
僕たちは。
When Cannon hung his head a little and faltered, Shannon slapped his shoulder and smiled and spoke.
私たちは人間です。ワルギリア様！警戒網に反応、脱獄です。なぜか見張りのヤギがいません。
どうしてです？ガープですね。人の召喚物を勝手に。ガプガプガプ。
交戦規定確認。脱走者への射殺許可を申請であります。おやりなさい。やっちゃいなさい。ガプガプガプガプガプ。ギャー。了解であります。45、410追撃狙撃戦準備。弾手収束誘導弾。ワルギリア様、逃亡阻止結界を。
そうでしたね。ここから逃がしはしませんよ。いったガプガプ言ってたら舌かみました。
The underground passage in front of them was once again blocked by metal bars. The door was, of course, locked. However, that was no problem for them now. This looks right by where the underground gold stuff is.
カノン、また鉄格子だ。 頼む。
はい、旦那様。
しかしすごいわ。一体どういう原理なのかしら。
原理など興味ないね。大事なのは彼に鉄格子が切断できてここから脱出できること。気にするなカノン、やれ。
お任せ。
Cannon, if you do this, I'll let you sleep with my daughter. Cannon sliced the metal bars again with his red curved blade, but there was a harsh, strange noise, and the metal bars had only had a slight scratch.
なんと、これは頑丈な。
違う、エンチャントされてる。ワルギリア様の魔法杖だ。
切断できる？
もちろん。でも時間をかけるよ。
3分間待ってやる。
Well, what else are you gonna do, dude? It's like, we'll wait 3 minutes. Where you have nowhere else to go, right? After taking a deep breath and concentrating his mind, Cannon extended the red curved sword again. Where he pressed it hard against the middle guard, sparks sprayed, almost as though he was melting through it with a burner.
切断はできそうだが、手こずりそうだな。
旦那様、敵に捕捉されました。下がってください。
追って。誰も来てないわよ。
It'd be really cool if when he was doing the thing against the bars, it had like a chainsaw thing.
狙われてます。45、データ治療。標的は捕捉。地形誤差修正。射撃曲線形成。制御点補正完了。410、データリンク。410、データ受領。危険区域確認。問題。
WO、師団装填48発。個別誘導 F&F。収束誘導弾。準備完了。
45、射撃準備完了。収束誘導弾、装填。410、にひひひ。射撃。
A golden arrow that sparked gold was fired, leaving a gold tail streaming behind. It drew a curve, went through the door and through the keyhole, down the stairs toward the underground path at full speed.
何か光りましたぞ。
黄金の矢はシールドで防げない。カノン君、迎撃態勢。リンクしよう。
ゲートキーパー了解。姉さんと一緒に戦うのは久しぶりだ。動じらないでよ。
本気でやる。
なら問題ない。
Cannon stopped cutting the bars and stood in front of Shannon. Behind him, Shannon closed her eyes, concentrating her mind deep in the darkness of the underground path. Get it, girl. A guided cluster round is a special kind of arrow made up of 48 sub-rounds bound together. It explodes mid-flight and divides into 48 mini arrows. The strength of each individual one is low, but they pierce through all shields and possess a perfect wounding and killing power against personnel. And on top of that, each one of the 48 possesses autonomous guidance towards their individual targets.
光った。分裂した。
収束誘導弾、分裂確認。師団46、7、8、48、全弾捕捉。迎撃完成。カノンへデータリンク。
カノン、データ受領。姉さんの能力はすごいな。48発全部見える。
迎撃優先順位に注意。
Interesting. They have almost...
姉さんを信じて。
もちろんさ。僕は目を開ける必要さえない。
迎撃開始。目標健在。
Got him.
迎撃されました。48発全部。
揃うと手強いこと。あいたたた、これ口内炎になっちゃうかしら。
落ち着け。再装填。弾種を変更。精密高速狙撃弾。精密狙撃戦準備。
そりゃいいね。追撃不能の超高
I'm
速
sure they'll
弾。
find a way.
ゲートキーパーごときじゃ防御不能だに。精密狙撃戦了解。精密射撃用データ収集開始。
一体今のは何なんだ。
安心して。私にもさっぱりよ。一つわかるのは、二人に頼らなきゃ死んでたってことね。
カノン君、ありがとう。鉄格子に戻って。多分、次のは迎撃できない弾が来る。
そんな攻撃をどう
I
防ぐん
need
だ。
it.
撃たせません。カノン君、霊視線、防備。
At those words, Cannon closed his eyes tightly and ground his teeth. With Shannon at the center, a pressure and impact that only non-humans could perceive struck.
あれ？射撃システムエラー。ダメだ。再起動。あれ
霊波妨害。霊視防護。急げ。何をしてるか。早く耳を塞げ。45。
An unseen, unheard impact had struck the Chiser sisters. 00 and 410 crouched out, covering their ears, but 45 didn't make it in time. As she stood bolt upright, her eyes rolled.
キューキューキューキューキューキュー。45、コンパイラのエンジンがいっちゃったよ。キャー、私もノイズがひどいに。
45、410。そして WO。損傷。狙撃戦を断念。リンクで、もろに来た。再起動しないと。
Racing their spirit particle sensitivity for precision sniping had backfired. They had taken a full blown of a spirit particle shockwave. Shannon released, of course. Obviously, they were open for that. And not only 45, who had been hit directly, but also 00 and 410 had been linked with her, were taken down.
大丈夫ですか？後でまた美味しい紅茶を入れてあげますからね。
I don't know if the black tea is necessarily going to help with that, but
申し訳ございませんであります。再起動をかけます。数百秒ほどお待ちを。
all of the Chiser sisters had fallen over. They would probably get back up eventually, but it looked like it would be hard for them to return to the battle lines for a while.
家具が武具を一時的にとはいえ退けますか。なるほど。あの子の面白がる筋書きは実に大番狂わせが多いこと。
Virgilia tore through the air with a large gesture, motioning as though opening a door.
さあさあおいでなさい。ヤギの従者たち。お仕事の時間ですよ。脱走者
These
たち
guys
を
aren't
殺して
that
捕らえ
freaking
なさい。
strong there, and it depends on how many she has.
伝えていいのですよ。どうせ蘇生できるし。
A gold-colored door opened in the air, and countless giant goats with muscular bodies peeked their faces out.
さあさあ急ぎなさい。脱走者は5人いるから5等賞までの早い者勝ち。
Okay,
素
so
敵
they
な
got a
ご褒
shit
美があ
ton
り
of
ま
them.
すよ
Okay.
さあさあ頑張って頑張って
Virgilia clapped her hands, urging them on. A prize? After facing each other at those words, the goats all rushed to the door at once, trying to get out, making the exit as packed as the Tuzo or Yamanote rail lines in the morning. They're gonna end up accidentally killing each other, huh? Each wanted to get out first, so none of them could get... Virgilia held her head in frustration. By that time, Cannon had managed to cut through the bars enough to make a crack that could be slipped through. It had been a bit of work for Kraus, as large as he was, and Nanja with his lethal waist. But even so, they all managed to make it through. But after they did, they only had a couple of seconds to be relieved. Immediately, another set of metal bars blocked the way in front of them.
厳重ね。よっぽどここの人を逃がしたくなか
Oh,
ったんでしょ
really?
うね。
カノン、すまんがもう一度頼む。辛いだろうが頼む。
There was sweat on Cannon's forehead. You could tell at a glance that cutting through the metal bars, which had been made even more solid magic, had physically exhausted him.
はい。お任せを、旦那様。
お前にしかできん。どうか頼む。
Only he can do it. Holding tightly onto those words, Cannon concentrated his mind once again and set himself to the task of cutting metal bars again.
後方敵が来ます。複数。
ええ、今度は私たちにもわかるわ。すごい地響きね。とんでもない化け物が殺到してくるのがわかるわ。
ご安心を。
If I remember right, Kyrie has like superhuman speed though, right?
今抜けた鉄格子を私が魔法杖で封鎖します。ヤギたちごときには破れません。
Shinna held her hand towards the metal bars they had gone through, but she stopped right away.
どうかしましたか？
ワルギリア様が霊波妨害の中和を開始。破られるとまずい。シエスタ姉妹の再起動後のイニシアチブを奪われます。
可愛いウサギたちをいじめてくれたお返しはたっぷりこの小賢しい霊視で優位に立とうというなら、それを丸ごと剥ぎ取って私が奪ってあげます。
あのヤギたちにその鉄格子の隙間は狭すぎる。しばらくは食い止めてくれるはず。
何を言っているかさっぱりだもん。
だいぶヤバいってことだけは理解できた
Kyrie
わ。
had picked up the metal bar that Cannon had just cut. Kraus had no weapon, but he rubbed his fists, and the two of them glared in the depths of the underground passage where the shaking was coming from.
この鉄格子で遮るものはおしまいのはずだ。ここから屋敷までどのくらいあるんです？かなり歩く。道は平坦だが30分は歩いた記憶が。
全力疾走ならその半分ってこと
Probably
だわ。
one half of one. Homie's fat as hell. There's no way he's walking fast. So, you could probably make it there in a third of the time. They couldn't tell for sure, but since they didn't have the three-sided mirror, but there was no guarantee that George and Jessica would still be alright against the demon opponents after all this time.
歩く2倍の速度で走れば15分。さらにその2倍で走れば8分を切るわ。
さらにその倍の全力疾走なら5分かからん。問題ない。むちゃくちゃな計算ですが。ですが、カジマの計算式はそういうものです。
申し訳ございません。旦那様、後を頼みます。
任せたまえ。カノンは1秒でも早く鉄格子、シャノンはワルギリアとかいう魔女への妨害に専念したまえ。追っては私とキリエさんで防ぐ。
Then, the roars of beasts rang out from the darkness, and several fiery glowing red eyes appeared. Goats that were several levels more massive than the guards were rushing forward with incredible force. The tremors they created were almost like an earthquake. They brought a frightening intensity and terror, but Kyrie actually laughed with relief. Those massive bodies wouldn't be able to go through the cracks in the bars. And these fools are stupid. The group of goats crashed into the metal bars with a fierce sound, like that of a train colliding with a dead end. Clumps of dirt fell here and there from the ceiling, and you could tell that the metal bars had bent, as if collapsing. Their charging power was probably on par with the train. If the metal bars hadn't been there, they would have likely overwhelmed the five of them, crushing them in an instant. When the group of goats pressing against the metal bars noticed the five people right in front of them, they let out a terrible howl, trying to intimidate the five. Or maybe it was out of the pain from their game of push and shove. One calm goat among them figured out what should be done about the metal bars. They grabbed two of them with his massive arms and began banding them as though opening double doors. Kiria jabbed her metal pole against the goat's vitals. The goat let out a roar of anguish. It probably hurt a lot, but that was all. It wasn't enough to bring it down.
クラウスさん
Still holding the metal pipe she had stuck out, Kiria relinquished the opposite tip to Kraus. Kraus ran there with all his might and jumped and kicked down with all his weight and kicking power combined. All that destructive power was focused on a single pole, drilling it in.
大丈夫ですかな。患部は揉まないように。お薬は後で処方しましょう。お大事に。
So, as the goat, who had been taken to a pile bunker to its vitals, writhed with teary eyes. It nodded its head.
私たちのリンクも結構いけるじゃない。シャノンちゃんたちには負けられないわ。
当然じゃないか。
Oh, really? Yeah.
私たち
Real
は仲良し
loving.
一族だからね。
二人がかりでならいけるわ。次、右側のあいつ。
了解だ。いい嫁さんじゃないか。ルドルフめ。少し愚痴が多かったんじゃないか。
へえ、後で聞かせてもらうわ。ルドルフさん、天国で青くなっても手遅れよ。
The goat's massive bodies were buried in rose bushes. Even taking into account that a leg's power is 3 times that of an arm's, this strength surpassed common sense. To think that those massive bodies had been kicked in the chin and flown through the air was too fierce. Even George seemed a little surprised.
僕の蹴りが化け物にも通用したとはね。驚きだよ。
あんたの反撃特化結界のせいよ。ブレイズした攻撃力をそのまま自らに上乗せしてる。あんたの蹴りにはその化け物どもの怪力が加算されてるのよ。
へえ、よくわからないけど僕にぴったりじゃないか。誰であろうとも攻撃してくるなら等しい反撃を覚悟してもらう。専守防衛、僕のポリシーそのものだ。
That's why Gop couldn't easily touch him. The counterattack style barrier had no defensive power. However, because of its countering ability, it could be useful in defense by making the opponents hesitate to attack. The goats had been foolish and had attacked without worrying, but this second effect had worked in full against Gop.
こいつらは単調だね。パワーが互角であるならば小柄な方が有利だ。
He lightly dodged the log-like arms. When those arms touched the barrier that protected George, they let off a strong red light. The tip of the counterattacking foot would then gain the same sparkle, and the human power of the goat added to his own. The second goat fell forward and floated in the air for a second. Then George's next roundhouse kick missed right over the fallen goat's head. For an instant the goat hoped it might get away with its life. But no! A heel was dropped onto the back of its head and it was forced to kiss the ground.
冗談回し蹴りからの
Got
めげちゃぎは
friggin'
基
Chuck
本だ。
Norris over here.
たまにやると結構当たるよ。
こいつ厄介だわ。マジで厄介だわ。
何が悪魔だ、何が魔女だ。六軒島の主人はこの後ろ宮家だよ。それを体で教えてやるよ。
こいつ。
The only way to finish off George, now that his body was wrapped up in a counterattack style barrier, was to deny him a chance to counterattack. Nothing to do but suck him into the abyss next, then kick and drop him, kick and drop him, kick and drop him, until she kicked him to death. But George had already completely seen through the faint warning signs that told the appearance of Gap's pitfalls. If he could jump over that next pitfall, then this time he would probably pulverize Gap's head with a whirlwind-like kick without holding back in the slightest, just as he had done to his parents. She was able to envision that scene vividly. Gap hated Keenza more than ever for calling her out to this ridiculous island. Even though Ronov held out a shield, he finally started using his hands. Without a more powerful shield, he wouldn't be able to block Jessica's fists anymore. The enchantment on Jessica's fists grew more as she fought. The permeating upgrade had already grown several times, and those fists had also been given an impact upgrade, a piercing upgrade, and a speed upgrade, making fists worthy to fight on par with a demon. He looks so...
どうしてよへばってきたんじゃねえのかよ動きが鈍ってきて
You
る
know,
ぜ
he's probably charging up, homegirl.
いいえ、ジェシカ様の動きと思考、動体視力が飛躍的にエンチャント。私の動きは最初から変わっていませんよ。あなたの動きが私を捉えつつある。
それでも反撃はしねえわけか。
これが私のこだわりですので。しかしこのままというわけにもいきますまい。そろそろ本気で終わりにさせてもらいますよ。
Ronov's face turned into an expression that hadn't been shown before. It was full of respect for Jessica in a truly demonic way. Because it was an expression that only he showed for enemies who made him get serious. With a gesture of his whole body that you couldn't call elegant, Ronov held out a shield with all his strength, a shield the size and thickness of a wall. It was more tenacious than a simple shield. It literally was a wall. And on top of that, with all of Ronov's magical power, it pushed Jessica back bit by bit. Did he plan on pushing her against the wall and crushing her to death? Jessica tried to break through the wall with both fists, but it was solid. Without any exaggeration, it was solid.
これがお前の本気かよ上等だぜ打ち砕いてやらー今度はそうはさせません
Yeah, I mean, if she somehow breaks through this, he is completely screwed though.
この壁は一味違います。どれ
Does it get stronger with every
さ
hit?
せていただきましょう。
When Ronov made a magic sign almost like a ninja, the wall glowed red just for an instant, and some kind of ominous power dwelt within it. Jessica was able to recognize that almost immediately with her body. Every time her fist hit the wall, pain as though glass fragments had scattered all over and hit her body rebounded against her.
攻撃反応装甲を付与させていただきました。ジェシカ様の攻撃を相殺することで威力を減退させ、のみならず反応破片で反撃までできる優れものです。殴り続けるのは大いに結構ですが、それは自ら
つまりお前の壁と私の我慢比べってことかよ上等だ
ジェシカ様が膝をつくのが先か、壁見物させていただきましょう。
打ち破ってこの壁ごとお前の横っ面をぶっ飛ばす方が先かもな見てやがれ
Without hesitation, Jessica punched, using both fists. Each time she did, large amounts of shards scattered, torturing her entire body. Instantly, several red gashes appeared all over her. She grimaced at the intense agony, but her eyes were burning with fighting spirit, and her lips curved into a grin that stood in sharp contrast to the pain.
カノン、まだかね。私たちは平気だが、奴らを防ぐ鉄格子が平気ではなさそうだ。
もう少しです。
こいつらキリがないわ。おしくらまんじゅうだけで鉄格子を破りかねない。
The group of goats made the metal bars creak. Several arms grabbed the bars, twisting them with superhuman strength. However, some bars were being pulled in the opposite directions by different hands. Apparently, they really were stupid. The way those countless hands grabbed the metal bars sometimes happened to match up by any chance. Several hands grasped two metal bars, neatly put their power together, and pulled the bars to the left and right. The incredible sound of metal bending could be heard, and that crack was getting larger and bit by bit. And they attacked the arms of those goats one by one, but they weren't getting anywhere. They couldn't stop the gap from spreading left and right. At that time, there was a loud metal sound behind them. Ken had finally finished cutting.
早く。
キリエさん、レディーファーストだ。南條先生も続いてる。
旦那様、ここは僕に任せてください。これは
Cannon's red sword that had cut through the metal bars had disappeared. Uh-oh.
ごめん。ワルギリア様の霊視線影響下に入った。私たちの魔力が中和されてる。
よくも大魔女と呼ばれた私にここまで抗ったものです。もはやその地下道ではあなたたちの魔法は使えませんよ。
A magic circle column drew a complex magical formula with Vergilia at the center. With such genuine magic being used, Shannon's power couldn't even compete. On the contrary, it was surprising that she had withstood as long as she had.
霊視優勢を確保。さあ、シエスタ姉妹、今度こそあなたたちの出番ですよ。ってまだ再起動してるんですか？なんで最近の子は寝起きが悪いの？
申し訳ありませんであります。私たち全員バージョンが違ってて。
なんでバージョン変わるたびにショートカットとプルダウンがしっちゃかめっちゃかになるに。前回不正な終了がありました？管理者って何？
All things that we deal with on computers.
何これわけわかんない。早く直して。
この得体トラブルシュートに変わる。何？ユーザーコードがないと教えない
？Oh my god, that's freaking hilarious.
ユーザーコードは45が管理してるに。
Was that her user code?
9999にしか聞こえん。紙に書かせろ。
言語支援システム再起動できてないから文字も書けないに。
お前たちはゆっくり修理していな
Poor
さい。
Vergilia.
私が行ってきます。
ごめんなさい。
Where the hell is Kinzo? The narrow underground passage was packed with goats, truly like a commuter train in the morning. Vergilia was again shocked by this congestion.
何をやってるんですか？ご褒美が欲しいから一番乗りがしたい？他のヤギにご褒美を奪われたくないから邪魔をし合っている？このおバカヤギたちが！私が行きますから道を開けなさい。何？嫌ですって？ワルギリア様がご褒美を奪うつもりだ？なんでスクラム組んでるんですか
？Oh my gosh. These buffoons.
いつからここはヤギ専用車両に？今お尻触った子、次の駅で降りなさい。何あなた、こっちへ来いって。
The five in Krause's group dashed through the passageway with all their strength. They couldn't dawdle around in an underground place like this. They had to join up with the children on the surface. If they could meet up where there would no longer be any more sorrow. At that time, a terrible rumble started chasing them. Had their pursuers made it through the metal bars? But they couldn't see anyone when they turned around. However, that rumble and dirt that fell there here and there from the ceiling grew closer and closer, finally catching up with them and even going past them. It almost felt like they were being chased by ghosts. For a second, they thought they had gotten away until the ceiling in front of them fell and a single goat stood in their path. Vergilia was sitting on his shoulder.
賢い子が近道を知っていました。偉い子ですね。一等賞ですよ。 後で手作りのサバのカレー煮をご馳走してあげますよ。
Maybe it really was happy about that dubious prize. The massive goat showed its joy by putting its hands together and writhing. Vergilia leapt down, laughing this time. It was finally checkmate. Yeah, they're screwed now.
ダメだ。魔力が完全に殺されてる。
まだよ。魔法がなくても私たちにはまだこの体が
What
あ
are
る。
you boobs gonna be used?
無茶だ。あんな化け物にあの不思議な力がなくて戦えるわけがない。 子供たちは下がっていたまえ。私が何とかするから、その隙にあの化け物の両脇を駆け抜けるんだ。
させませんよ。
When Vergilia clapped her hands, a purple magic circle wall appeared behind her, stealing even the faint hope that Kraus had been betting on.
ダンジ、キュースか。
Well, if you deny her magic, but...
いや、ジェシカも戦った。私が戦わんわけにはいかん。
本気なの？無理よ、あんな巨大な化け物に。
むちゃくちゃだ、クラウスさん。他の方法を考えましょう。思いついたら提案してくれたまえ。それまでも私が何とかするしかないようだ。さあ、下がりたまえ。
気をつけて。おやおや、クラウス、あなた一人でこの子と戦うつもりですか？
わからんぞ。戦いにはまぐれあたりの一発だって
It's not wrong.
まぐれでも勝てるつもりとお思いですか？身の程知らずのあなたのために私が状況を整理して差し上げましょう。
何？
あなたが 100% の力を発揮したとしてあなたの戦闘力はせいぜい6。対してこの子の戦闘力は1000。つまりあなたが100人束になっても絶対に勝てないということです。まあ確かに戦いには不確定要素もあります。その戦闘力に多少の倍率がかかることも認めましょう。しかしそれでもあなたがこの子を倒せる確率は 0.00001% というお分かりかしら？あなたには万に一つの勝ち目もないということです。
What are the numbers? Vergilia and the goat goffed together.
万一ということは配当は1万倍ということではない。
Yeah.
いい大穴だ。そういう馬券は好きだよ。買いたくなる。
それを買うコインはあなたの命1枚しかありませんよ。しかしそれでもその奇跡に運命を託したいというあなたの気持ちよくですので恐れずに立ち向かうあなたの勇気をたたえ一つハンデ
The
に差し
arrogance
上
is
げま
always
す。
what screws him over.
この子は左腕一本で戦います。まあそれでもあなたに負ける気は全くしませんが、それにしても何かしら、
Yeah,
さっ
I've
き
been
からピンポンピンポンと。
いや、その勝負受け
I
て
wonder
立
if
って
he has like the like that dude's power in like Hunter x Hunter where he has the payment system with the interest.
左腕だろうとなんだろうと、どうせ私は一撃で殺されるだろう。私のチャンスもまた一撃しかないのだ。それに全てかけるしかあるまい。むちゃくちゃだ、クラウスさん。あんたがボクシングをやってたことは知っているが、それでも大学時代のはず。いやいや、仮にプロのボクサーがいたとしても、あんな化け物一撃で倒せるはずもない。
リングの上での試合なら確かにね。でもクラウス兄さんが望みをかけるチャンスがわずかだけどあるわ。彼はそれに全て望みをかけている。
まさか。しかしそんなのもうまくいくわけがない。
旦那様。
見ていろ。一撃で決めてやる。
Oh, the distance between the two of them is more than 10 meters. If the goat and Kraus both step in with all their strength to settle the fight in a single blow, their power will be double what is normal. Both will crash together, so it's a relative 4 times normal. Even if, on top of that, the strike lands on a weak point for a critical hit, that would only double the power again. In short, Kraus's maximum power is level 6 times 8, which would be 48 at the most. He might be able to win if he repeated a lucky shot a full 20 times. Oh, if you're killed every time you take a hit and your damage still accumulates, perhaps you might finally win when we get to episode 24, yes? If only this series could stretch so long. Either way, you don't have a slight chance of victory. Why is her thing not?
私も一撃に全てをかけさせていただく。ヤギ君も遠慮することはない。
Goat Kun?
本気で来たまえ。
全力を要望ですよ。本気の一撃で粉砕し、肉片に変えてやりなさいな。
As the goat got excited and beat his chest over and over, it took position as though preparing for a sprint. Oh, is this what you wanted? Bet your hopes on the greatest limits of your power level and despair when even that gets you nowhere? It rang again. What the heck? It's really starting to get on my nerves.
行くぞ。いいかね。
The goat howled in response. Then, with a match timing that only men confronting each other could comprehend, the two leapt forward like bullets shot out of a gun. The men howled, collecting all the strength from all over their bodies into one arm each. The goat's fiery red glowing eyes clearly locked onto Kraus's face. He could perfectly see a vision of when he would step forward, when he would punch through Kraus and blow him away, and when he would win perfectly. The long, painful days up to that point drifted through the goat's mind. Those painful days of training when his senpais had picked on him. Those faint glimpses of the warm concern his senpais felt for him. And the joy of that day his power being acknowledged when he had been accepted as one of his comrades. I never showed proper respect to my parents. That's right. Didn't I plan to wash my hands of this business when this job was over and return to my hometown? Interesting, he's talking about things in this way like he's not a goat demon. It's probably significant. I'm sorry, little goat sister. Your Oni-chan always caused you so much trouble. And I actually have a childhood friend, and I'm gonna marry her when I get home.
Yeah! ダメ！負けフラグ立てすぎちゃダメ！そのパンチはダメよ！避けて！
It happened the instant before the two crashed and their punches crossed.
愚かね、ワルギリア。冷静な判断を欠いたようよ。
そのパンチを受けてはなりません。弾きなさい！
The very instant the goat's left straight and Kraus's right straight crossed, the goat obeyed Virgilia's order with super fast reflexes and pulled his straight back, repelling Kraus's punch. That's right, Virgilia's decision probably had been wise. After all, the number of those loser flag amplifies the power level of one's opponent.
危ないところでした。こんな負けフラグ立てまくりの状態で食らっていたらどれほどの威力に倍率がかかっていたことか。そこでガラ空きの右側面に右ストレートを叩き込ん。何？左腕一本で戦う約束？ 約束は破るためにあるのでしょうが。
また立った
失望よ悪い。あなたはやはり冷静を欠いていたわ。
なんですって。直前に気づいて避けさせた私のどこが冷静でないと。
どうしてですかキリンス。あのまま激突していたら旦那様の勝ちだったのでは。
そうか。負けフラグの数が20でもまだ足りないんだ。
Kraus and the goats double rush made for ×4. With a miracle as an ally, the firm promise of a critical hit doubled it again for ×8. On top of that, there was an amplification of ×20 equal to the number of loser flags, making it ×160. At a glance, that was an incredible amplification, but even so, Kraus's level power is at 6. Even multiplied by 160 made for a level power of 960, just barely below the goat's 1000.
だから冷静じゃないと言ったのよ。あなた失敗したわ。そのまま激突していればあなたの勝ちだったのよ。
たとえそうだったとしても、この右ストレートでクラウスの頭を砕けば同じこと。死ね後ろ宮クラウス。
食らいたまえボクシング界最強の一撃を。
After repelling Kraus's right straight, the goat's right straight attacked the right side of Kraus's face, which had been left open. But there, it had crossed Kraus's left straight. I'd really appreciate it if I could see this for real in a good anime. The two punches crossed, and the time had stopped as each aimed for the face of the other.
まさかこのタイミングで相打ちに持ってくるとは。しかし戦闘力は160倍止まりで900。うちの子の1000には及びませんでしたよ。
いや、ワルギリアさん、あんたの負けだ。
どうして？
あんた最初のクロスカウンターを弾かせちまった。確かにその次に繰り出した右ストレートが当たればクラウスさんは粉々にされていただろう。しかしそいつをクロスさ、こりゃダメだ。悪いがあんたんとこのヤギさんの乾杯だよ。
A cross counter is 4 times the destructive power of a normal punch. This is a common knowledge in the boxing world, and if it's blocked and the right straight hits, then it's a double cross counter with 8 times the destructive power. This is also common knowledge in this boxing world, and if that is crossed, then by principle of leverage, the triple cross will multiply the destructive power by 12. I mean, I guess. I'll just accept it. This is also painfully common knowledge in the boxing world. It's even written in the Mind Shobu book.
クラウスさんの戦闘力は6。
双方2倍の踏み込みで4倍。
クリティカルヒットで8倍。
負けフラグの立てすぎで160倍。そしてトリプルクロスカウンターでさらに12倍。
Oh, that's quite strong. It's like, yeah.
1920倍。
His power level is 11,520. Kraus's punch now had the power to easily win the first... whatever.
これは勝利を最後まで諦めなかったクラウスさんの執念とあんたの慢心が招いた結果だ。どちらが欠けてもこの威力にはならなかった。あんたよく戦ったよ。もう倒れてもいいんだぞ。
Nacho clapped the goat on the shoulder. Yoru-Nichan gave it his all. After sparkling drops from the goat's eyes scattered, he bent backwards and fell on Vergilia. The goat's massive body was too tender for the slender Vergilia. She wriggled around with it on top of her, but it didn't look like she'd be able to escape. In that instant, the barrier over Vergilia's seal had broke.
悪く思うな。テコの原理を侮ったのが君の敗因だ。
どうしてあのカウンターでテコの原理が働くのかしらね。永遠の謎だわ。
今のうちに逃げましょう。ヤギさんもお大事に。
それでは失礼します、ワルギリア様。
ペコリ。
待ちなさい。これどけて。ガブガブガブガブガブガブ。
After that, there's nothing blocking their way. They ran intently through the underground passage. Then Freddy Krueger showed up. Jessica had finally been cornered with the wall at her back. Ronov advanced with his magic circle bit by bit, and would probably crush her against the wall eventually. Considering the distance she threw out her fists, this would be her final strike. Jessica dealt so many punches so far. Oh. The wall wasn't invincible. It had already started to crack, and it wouldn't be strange for it to smash at any moment. However, due to the rebounding damage, Jessica also had cuts all over her body and was all worn out.
もうおよしなさい。あなたを押しつぶすつもり、あなたの処遇は親方様が決めますからね。しかし、ジェシカ様のナイスファイトは私からもと。
ふざけるんじゃ。まだ終わっちゃいねえぜ。
あなたは満身創痍。立っているのもやっとではありません。あなたは最後の一撃に全ての力を込めるつもりでいるようだ。しかし、その最後の一撃はむしろあなたにとって命取りになりますよ。
The damage reflected by Ronov's magic circle wall was proportional to the strength of the attack. Jessica's all-out punch would be bounced back onto her. The more all-out she went, the more suicidal it would be for Jessica.
わかってるぜ。そんなことはよ。
警告します。もうおやめなさい。それがあなたのためです。
強がるなよ。お前の壁がもう破れかかってるんだろ。殴ってきた私には手応えで分かってるんだぜ。
That was a fact. Ronov's wall was already on the verge of breaking, and on top of that, Jessica's fists had been imbued with an unimaginable magic power by now, and their destructive strength defied the imagination. In the worst case, that destructive power might even pierce the defensive wall and smash Ronov as well, and create an expansion connecting this room to the next. However, that damage would rebound on Jessica as well. She wouldn't escape unharmed.
もう一度だけ言います。おやめなさい。あなたのためを思って言っています。
やかましいぜ。覚悟しやがれ。
Jessica howled, putting all the strength of her greatest and final destructive power into her fist. She roared. Hello. Now it's gonna go to George. The three goats had been beaten down long ago. Without straining to breathe in the slightest, George cautiously closed the distance between him and Gop. He was after her. He was planning on bringing her down with a single strike. Gop was also aiming for a single strike. If she let that chance slide, she would be killed this time.
落とし穴は使わないのかい?
Even the tiny opening during the time it took to open the hole would prove fatal with George as an opponent right now. Gop cautiously calculated distance and timing, but even as she did, George closed the gap between them.
来ないなら行くよ。
今さら小細工も何もないわ。私のこの蹴りで決着をつけてやる。
For an instant she thought George's body blurred, then only his jacket was floating in the air. The moment she thought, darkness covered Gop. George with his heels swung up high and was attacking from the sky like a massive dragon.
これで私の勝ちよ。後ろ宮ジョージ。
何?
Gop opened a vast pitfall with her in the center, swallowing up George along with herself. The two were swallowed up by the pitfall and spat out from the ceiling of the arbor. But that was what Gop had been after for, so she alone landed lightly. However, there was another pitfall in the landing spot.
もらったわ。後ろ宮ジョージ、面白かったわよ。死になさい。あんたみたいな上等、後ろ宮家の当主なんてもったいないわ。今この場で私が食ってあげる。
George once again fell from the ceiling of the arbor. He had probably been dropped the same distance as falling off the roof of a two-story building. In the sky, he couldn't control his posture in any way. It was impossible to resist, or defend, or avoid. As Gop spun like a whirlwind, she concentrated all of her energy on the sharp tip of her stiletto heel. This was the final strike, to perform his requiem. The final strike of the queen bee that would bore into heaven, knocking him down into the true abyss.
ようこそ奈落へ。ここがあんたの終着点よ。
She closed in on her prey, stuck her foot up in the sky. At that time, she saw George's face. Even though he was in midair, he was calmly adjusting his glasses with his middle finger of his right hand. And his posture was still preserved as that of an axe kick. Without the faint deviation, he aimed for Gop's forehead.
君がその手に出ることは想定済みだったよ。僕が地上の君に飛びかかとを食らわせるために飛んでいたなら、僕の姿勢はとっくに崩れていただろうさ。しかし僕の姿勢はいささかも崩れない。なぜかわかるかい？僕は初めから数フロア下の君にかかとを食らわせるつもりで飛んでいる。君の負けだ、お嬢さん。
ピンポーン。
The final strongest punch that Jessica had raised reached the wall and was sucked in. It was sucked into a black large hole that had suddenly opened the wall.
だからおやめなさいと忠告した。
Well, they both killed each other.
実は全然ピンチでもなんでもなかったの。ごめんなさいね。
Jessica's fist had gone for George's stomach, and George's axe kick lined up on Jessica's head. In shocking destructive power imbued in Jessica's fist crushed George's organs and scattered his abdomen. The same destructive power in George's axe kick smashed half of Jessica's head and scattered its contents in the same manner.
だって魔女は演技力なんでしょ。ねえねえリーチェ、どうよ、見ててくれたかしら。やるな、筋書き通り。やっぱガープは分かってるじゃん。イエーイ。
Nato and Gop casually high-fived each other. This is so extra.
ありがとロノウェイ。こっちで美味しくいただけた。ジェシカの死体はそっちに返すわ。二人で寄り添う死体を引き離す。これで第二の晩は出来上がり。
Gop dropped Jessica's corpse through a pitfall, and all the chunks were thrown into Jessica's room, as carelessly as throwing something into the trash. Jessica's corpse and lumps of flesh fell from the ceiling and poured out all over her room. Ronov shook his head slightly at this gruesome change of scenery.
申し訳ございませんね、ジェシカ様。ご忠告は申し上げたのですよ。もっともこの結末を予見し、聞き入れないと分かっている忠告を重ねる悪魔の醍醐味は人間には分からないでしょうがね。ピシッ
本当に面白かったわ、坊や。でもあんた、ちょっと言葉遊びが過ぎるわよ。そろそろ反撃してもいいかなが最高け。あなた、どこかのラノベか何かにかぶれすぎよ。
In the arbor, brutally decorated by George and Jessica's scattered blood and guts, Gop enjoyed a loud laugh for a while, but she quickly realized that, in all seriousness, this is a little too filthy and undignified, so she snapped her fingers. As she did, a cloud of gold butterflies rose up around her, stuck to each bits of blood stains, and dropped them. Then George's corpse returned bit by bit, and the brutal corpse with its guts torn out was repaired into a clean corpse that looked like it was sleeping. Was this some kind of act of sportsmanship towards a dead rival? The heavens were split, because Gop had lifted her leg high, pointing at the sky.
じゃあね、色男。これが本当のゲームオーバー。
Splat! Without a trace of mercy, that foot stepped down and was buried in George's forehead. The stiletto of the heel was sharp as a weapon pierced George's forehead. With a bloop, it was pulled out and was like a mark proving that Gop certainly had finished him by her own hand. Ronov also returned Jessica's corpse to its original form. And unlike how it had been with George, he restored Jessica's life.
いいえ、違います。ジェシカ様は確かにお亡くなりになりました。最後の瞬間の記憶をよくご存知のはずだ。
Jessica's mind was burning. For some reason, she remembered being thrown somewhere and having George's heel smash her head.
私は生きてるのか？
いいえ、死んでいます。私の魔法でほんの3分ほど、それを先送りにしているに過ぎません。3分が過ぎれば魔法が終わり、あなたは無残な頭部半壊の死体に戻ります。
だと
死は残酷です。多くの場合、心の整理さえ与えない。しかし私はここまで検討したあなたを称え、その時間を与えることにしました。その3分間でこの世の未練をよく整理されるといいでしょう。
その3分
And
で
bro, you ain't doing shit.
お前を道連れにするという
But the power that had burned through Jessica's body until a second ago had been completely lost. Jessica was aware of that herself. She was already dead.
それでは私はこれにて失礼いたします。楽しかったですよ、ジェシカ様。
Ronov turned his cloud into a form of gold butterflies and disappeared. All that remained was the sound of the wind and rain, and the figure of Jessica as she crouched down, leaning against the wall. Jessica could tell. She probably really would revert to the corpse that she had been after 3 minutes. Was there anything she could do in those 3 minutes? She stood up with a shaky gait, took the phone that was on the desk.
もしもし、ジェシカか。ジェシカ、どうした？無事か？
やられしまったぜ。
大丈夫か？怪我をしてるのか？今助けに行く。
いや、もう遅いぜ。私さ、もう死んでるんだ。バトラが来た時には、私は頭を半分ぶちまけた死体だよ。
クソじじいめ！待てろ、今そこに行くからな。
聞けよバトラ。いいか、幸田さんたちがどうして食堂で6人が殺された時のこと、歯切れが悪いのかよく分かった。あいつらな、人間じゃねえんだぜ。
何を言ってんだ。
言っちまったんだ。仕方ねえだろ。あいつらさ、ワープしたりバリア張ったり。どこの漫画だよ、アニメだよ。いや、マジで。最初からさ、戦うとか無理。バトラが自慢してた棒仕掛けの槍程度でとてもどうにかなる相手じゃねえぜ。
A line of blood dripped down from Jessica's forehead.
ジョージ兄さんもダメだった。ありゃ即死だ。次のテストはお前のテストも私たちと同じになるの。用心しろよ。そして間違えるな。
テストか？
違う。敵はどうせ人間だと間違えるなよ。敵は人間じゃない。恐ろしい魔法を自在に扱える悪魔なんだ。そこを絶対に間違えるんじゃねえぜ。
A line of blood dripped down from Jessica's mouth as well. The left half of her head started hurting. Jessica realized that she was about to return to the corpse she had been.
13人死ねば黄金の魔女が蘇る。母さんたちが殺されて6人。これで第1の番。そして私とジョージ兄さんが死んで第2の番。あと5人殺されれば儀式は完成で父さんたち無事だといいな。もし無事じゃなかったらお前をテストするのは復活したてのベアトリーチェ自身ってことになるかもしれねえぜ。
Butler already didn't understand what Jessica was saying, but from her tone, he realized that she knew she was about to die. So even though he didn't understand the situation, he urged her to give it her all.
私はもう死んでるんだって。じゃあな、もう時間みたいだ。テスト、お前が当主になれると。
That was way louder than I expected. I almost shit myself. Butler's sorrowful voice could be heard from the dangling receiver. As she leaned against the wall in that corner, crouched down, Jessica's head had been half smashed.
これは井戸なのか？ここはどこなんだ？
Kiria stuck her face out of the well, and then Kraus showed himself too. When he realized that they could see the back of the mansion from beyond the grove of trees, Kraus knew more or less where they were. To think that in a certain well there had been a hidden underground passage which led to a hidden mansion.
老体にはやはりこれは辛いですな。普段は別の場所からちゃんと階段で上がれるのです。鍵さえ開けば。
南條先生には後でいろいろとここの構造についてお教え願いたいものだ。シャノン、大丈夫かね。捕まりたまえ。
大丈夫です。カノン君、早く。
Cannon climbed up the ladder and out the shaft and was disguised as well. It was probably quite deep. When he looked down for the first time, he realized how far he'd come up.
にひ、射撃。
Bang! As Ken was about to finally crawl out of the well, a hole the size of a basketball opened up in his chest. Everyone there looked at the hole in Cannon's chest to the scenery beyond. Damn. Cannon slumped backwards and was swallowed up into the depths of the well. He wasn't out all the way, huh?
シスト姉妹、捕捉されてます。回避で走って。一人でも生き残って。
At the time, Kraus, Kyrie, and Nanjo certainly saw a golden line appear from the well and sow itself through the side of Shannon's head.
Shannon!
Her head had been pierced. The three had witnessed it perfectly until it had shot out the opposite side, blowing it away. Shannon fell to her knees. Blood gushed from both sides of her head, flopped onto the ground. That was smart to take those two out.
私たちは狙われ、走って殺されるわよ。
走れ、走れ、走れ、走れ。
As Nanjo doubled over in shock, stunned at how Shannon had died, the Chester sisters did not allow him to escape. Well, it's fine, he's useless. A curved line again appeared from the well and pierced up from Nanjo's forehead to the back of his head in an instant, sewing through him. Okay, so this is the 6 plus 2 is 8 plus 3 equals 11. So they need 2 more. Thump. And so Nanjo passed away. Bro, you better run. You better get wrecked, son.
狙撃されてるのよ。どこか知らないけど、私たちを完全に捉えてる。屋敷へ逃げ込むのよ。視界を遮るのよ。
The two dashed towards the back door of the mansion. Then, right as Kraus was about to shut the door behind him, a golden curved line appeared for the 4th time, piercing Kraus to the back of his head, to his forehead, smashing that forehead. Kraus's body leaned over, fell down into a neatly radical pattern with the insides of his head. Kiria ran wildly through the hallway, flew into some room, and locked the door. But even so, she wasn't even remotely convinced that it had saved her life. She would probably die soon. This is apparently one of the guest rooms. At that moment, Kiria's eyes fell on the phone on the side of the table. After hanging up the call from Jessica, Battler had been about to dash out. In that instant, the phone rang again.
もしもし。キリエさん。
はい、バトラー君、ラッキーだったわ。なんとか力を脱出できたの。本当についてた。
そこはどこだ。みんな無事なのかよ。こっちはジェシカとジョージの兄貴がどうやら。
聞いて、私の命は多分もう長くは持たないわ。
At that time, right after she thought the keyhole of the locked door might have glowed gold, a gold curved line drawing a helix. No, a golden sewing thread penetrated in from there at incredible speed and bored a hole through the door at Kyrie's feet. Oh, that's unusual. The enemy who sniped the others for one after another with an extraordinary skill apparently really does have trouble shooting me between the eyes with a single shot when I'm holed up in this room. But the next strike will probably hit. At this point, Kyrie finally remembered the first massive killing in the dining hall. That's right. This is what killed Rudolph and the rest, all 6 of them.
聞いて、バトラ君。私が見たことをありのまま話す。バトラ君はきっと私の頭がどうにかなってしまったんだろうと、思ってくれていいわ。私だって何を見たのか未だに整理がつかない。今日、バトラ君たちがゲストハウスに帰ってから、食堂で親族会議が始まって、そして何が起こったかを全て話すわ。口を挟まないで最後まで途中で急に電話が切れるかもしれない。そしたらその時は私が殺された時よ。
Then Kyrie spoke about Kinzo appearing and the family conference starting. About the 6 being killed and the 5 of them being confined. About how she had escaped somehow and ran away to where she was now, and how everyone had finally been killed. And it was all spoken dispassionately with no dramatization, just as she had seen it. She even spoke about how everyone except for her had been killed, and how she observed the moments of all their deaths. And even now, someone was trying to kill her.
実はこの話をしている間にももう3度攻撃を受けている。鍵穴からおかしな黄金の糸みたいなのが飛び込んできて来る。最初は足元、次は肩の近く、さっきのは耳をかす。狙いがだんだん正確になってくる。そろそろ私の眉間にズドンと来そうね。
逃げろ、キリエさん。逃げてくれ。
どこへよ、私。ここまで逃げ延びてきて部屋に閉じこもって。
Yeah, there's not much you can do at that point.
それでもなお狙われてる。
At least to our knowledge.
どこに隠れるのよ。ね
え。様。
ねえ、バトラ君、ジェシカちゃんとジョージ君、まだ生きてる？
さっきなんかダメみたい。
Sorry.
やっぱり私たち5人が次々殺される時、何か予感していたの。ひょっとして13人殺しの儀式は第2の番を終えて私たちの番にまで至ったのかなって。つまり私が死ねば13人。これで儀式は完成。黄金の魔女ベアトリーチェが復活する。一体どういうことになるのかし
So
ら。
I'd like to know as well.
こんな悪魔だらけの魔女だらけ、ヤギの化け物がうじゃうじゃいるこの島に、さらにそいつらの親玉である黄金の魔女まで現れて、一体どうなっちゃうというのかしら。もう私には何が何だかわからない。
Kyrie's son's voice had completely given up on her own life, because Battler understood that he couldn't stop the tears.
一つだけ助言できることがあったわ。
何？
もしあなたの前に悪魔やら魔女が現れても、
ああ、
その正体を疑う必要は何もないわ。そういうものだと理解して。何か仕掛けがあるはずだとか。
See, this is trying to... This is why... They're trying to convince him to accept magic or whatever.
そんなことを考える余裕があったら、相手の機嫌を損ねないことを考えた方がよっぽどに建設的。間違ってもなら魔法を見せてみろなんて言っちゃダメよ。その証拠を彼らはこの上なく残酷な方法で見せるでしょうから。
信じあんねえよ。キネさんの口からそんなこと言われるなんて。 信じらんねえよ。
分かってる。信じられないのは。だから、それこそが私にできる助言。信じて。
ペアとイーチェ
Don't
と
do it.
悪魔と魔女と化け物どもを信じろ。
あれほどまでに、この世ならざるものをありありと見せつけられても、多分何も信じることができなかったと思うの。今の私もそう。さっきから襲ってきて、私の額を撃ち抜こうとする者の正体さえ、私には理解できず、信じられない。だから、あなただけは信じ、理解して、私たちに受け止めきれなかった存在を、受け止めてほしいの。そうしてくれたなら、私たちの死は無駄にならない。私も、こうして電話をした甲斐があったというものだわ。
Genius by the witches.
まだ大丈夫よ。かすったけど、また外したわ。さすがに。今度はもうダメかもね。ありがとう。そしてさよなら。あなたのこと、アスムさんの息子だからと冷たくしたこともあったの。その日のことを許して。
許すも何も。今はキリエさんが俺にとっての母親だろうが。
Yeah. I felt as though I'd heard an incredible sound at the other end of the receiver. Then a noisy clanking sound. And so the receiver had fallen onto the floor.
キリエさん、キリエさん。
Kirie-san did not answer through the phone. Again. I knew she would come in. Okay, this is like a major change in the story, so I am going to save here. I'm also going to check. Yeah, let me see if I can do. Hold on, I'm going to save first so I don't forget. Okay. I'm going to check this thing. I can't remember which of you told me to do this. Where are the chysters? Here they are. Okay. Was it this one that... Wait, what the hell did I just do? I'm trying to see if I can execute her. Maybe I can't. Oh, maybe I can't till the end? Let me see if there's anything... Okay. Yeah, I can't really figure it out, but yeah, guys, this was a really good episode. Super fun. Yeah, I'm interested. I did not expect. I mean, basically, what 7 people died in this one episode I just did. It's quite a lot. Usually, after the first Twilight, it kind of goes a little bit slower, but this was quite fast-paced. I was actually kind of shocked with how quickly the people were killed and stuff. So, but yeah, I'm excited to see how this ends. I mean, we're in the home stretch since they've already killed 13 people, and I assume, I don't know, maybe we have 2 hours left, maybe 3, but I mean, we're pretty close to the end here. So yeah, I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on the episode. Did you think this? There was a lot of really funny moments in this to me too, even though like a lot of it was dark, but a lot of really funny shit too, to me personally. But yeah, let me know your guys' thoughts.